Uh, Broadly, 2-3 issues have emerged. That there is a need to search and develop alternative knowledge system, which need not to be essentially based on identity politics, but on some universal concerns. Concerns are universal, but some of them are also culturally mediated. And those mediations at times become, constraining, coercive. And we are basically subjected to that. Politically, of course, we fell to colonialism, and since then we have been suffering because of a political disadvantage. So some of our own ideas, our own categories, which should be more familiar to us, are becoming alien. And those categories through which we try to familiarize ourselves and approach our reality are basically, in fact, alien. That's why there is always a mismatch, disconnect between what we try to do and what we do. And social science perhaps is the best examples of this predicament. So keeping that in mind, I think all of us here have assembled, and I think that those who are participating in today's session are from different disciplines, social science. Of course, this entire discipline, business, is also something which is not our own, but still we have to basically operate within that framework. And all of us are uncomfortable trying to, to raise this issue in our own way, whatever resources available to us, theoretical resources mostly. So the purpose of this session should be that what we can do within this limited availability of resources, and how to augment this source further in terms of developing methodology. I think methodology issue was pointed out, Rajiv, and many of you have also hinted towards that. So how to do it in our respective areas of operation. So I think that if we broadly identify some themes, some broad topics, some broad titles, or the issue with which you are already engaging, then perhaps in due course of time we can have a larger canvas to operate. We can also identify that what are the commonalities in our own concerns, so that we can, sitting here, we can know that if we are on the same wavelength, then we can have some more fruitful engagement in the future. So I think that keeping that thing in mind, I think we should devote this session to that project.
So you want them to say, here is an idea I want to propose, and write a paper on that. Is that how direct you want? Yeah, people should be direct on that.
Yeah.
Not analytical.
Right.
Because we like.
But this is one area, which
I'm interested in this, because we like to finish by having people who volunteer to do specific things towards a book.
Yeah, to begin with. I mean, this larger project of engagement.
Yes.
Should take some concrete form initially.
If you look at the connotation of the word social science, which you will have to, then you will have to confront at some point of this project the methodology of the sciences, which again are very well laid down, very well articulated. They may be less well articulated for the social sciences than they are for the natural sciences. That, of course, we know. And there's always been this question mark, are the social sciences, etc., etc. But that has been a debate in the West, and it's been more or less resolved by say, okay, take the appellation science, we'll give it to you. But from the point of view of this project, or potential project, you will have to look at reality through social science categories. And if you're merely talking about, let's change the categories, let's do a fiddle here, let's do a fiddle there, we won't use Western categories. No, because this came up in the workshop that we had, Anita was there, as though one can fiddle around with the categories and then still have a social science. In fact, there was a lot of emphasis, even raised by people who were very, very much against what had happened to the Indian mind after colonization. They still wanted to restore social science in some kind of pristine, or at least Indian pristine purity. And to me there is a great problem there. Because, and how radically are you willing to go is another question for the social scientist. I mean, I do philosophy, I don't consider myself a social scientist. I have other problems. But you all have this problem. You have this tremendous problem. Can you do it without very seriously questioning the very notion of science? Science, remember, is one of the major contributions that the Western world has made in the history of mankind. It has given, for better or for worse, I mean, I'm not making now normative judgmental statements, but this is just simply a fact. It has revolutionized the world. Now, how radically do you want to question the categories and the methodologies? Because the question of methodology has come, the methodology of science.
The so-called universal knowledge, what the West has done is that they first of all destroyed the universe, actually. Taken certain aspects of it and then use it in general, and then they call it universal.
Yes.
Then what actually happens is that what the totality is basically, they destroy the total universe, take certain aspect of it and then try to generalize it. That is they call what the universe is all about. Now keeping that the assumption in mind, recently I have started reading what is popularly known in India is the Dalit literature. And there are certain people from, one of my colleagues, Tulsiram is there, he wrote a very fantastic book on Murdaiya. Second volume is likely to come out any time. There are a set of books that were written in Maharashtra, starting with Daya Kumar, then Simbole, and many other people. What actually happened is that the resistance to knowledge, I tell you, it is so revealing. The thing which we either do not consider it as knowledge, we rubbish it, but the amount of resistance, for example, this Tulsiram says about UP in Murdaiya. Murdaiya is a category of people who stay put on the way to the cremation ground. They are basically people who used to eat dead animals at one point of time. Now when their caste war used to take place, and they would loot caste war on hands down at any point. But at one point, the thing is that at the last brahmas that they had is that they used to keep the bones of the dead animals, and the moment they take it out, all Brahmins and high caste will run away because it doesn't kill. But basically it does something more than killing. Your heaven is also taken away from you. I mean, if you have been touched by a bone of a dead animal, then not only this, but okay. Now that is the kind of resistance of knowledge that I'm really talking about. I mean, the question is that, you read the book of James C. Scott, Weapons of the Weak, and we think, yes, here is the, but I'm telling you, if you read Symbolic, Lakshman Mani, the amount of new vistas of knowledge, and unfortunately what Ramchandra Guha is Tom going everywhere in the world, that Indians don't write biographies and we don't have biographical tradition and all this. But don't you think these are biographies? Can only Mahatma Gandhi's biography, Nehru's biography, can biography? What about the Symbolic biography? And Symbolic is not an individual, Daya Kumar is not an individual, Lakshman Mani is not an individual. They represent the knowledge which had not been accepted as knowledge. So, and that is where humanities, philosophy, sociology, and even science. Let me just give an example. What is this culture of idli and dosa in India? The West knew about this thing, making curd only 19th century. Before that, they never made meat cut, so the technology was not, that the bacteria was not available with them. But in India, we didn't have a fridge. You want to eat rice. Rice cannot be kept in, but you have overcooked it, or some unwanted guest comes, you cannot put again. Therefore, in Bengal, you made palta bhat. Put water in that, let it ferment. It goes for 2-3 days. In South, this same technique of fermentation you use for preservation. And as a result of that, what one could do is that in Indian cuisine, which is not in patent, which is not Pizza Hut, what actually happens is that the whole system of, and that is where knowledge, it is needful. And then my basic hunt is that the formal education system is the biggest enemy of Indian knowledge system. Can we take it head on? Because who is today the gynecologist? Some Pandey, some Pathak, some Shukla. But who was the traditional? Dadai, she is untouchable. We don't recognize her knowledge as knowledge. Who is the other technologist today? Some Naidu or somebody else. But the Mochi remains where it is. And that is where I think the knowledge system will have to be incorporated, which have not been put on the margin even today. Therefore,
Would you like to write a paper on that?
So can you identify some area where you like to?
See, I would like to propose a paper from him. I don't know if we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, please.
But I think his idea on taxonomy, different kinds of, which can encompass this also.
Yeah, right.
But a huge amount of taxonomies that challenge Western universities. Indian taxonomies that challenge Western universities.
That I will do that.
That, because, you know, it's what you said this morning is very powerful, very good stuff.
That's what, otherwise, you know, I again, my paper is already ready on, I have really looked at the whole issue of the census, the government of the UID, or this thing, how that is really, has, is the real, but if you want, I can work on taxonomy also.
Taxonomy is a good idea.
Present both the,
Present both of them. Yeah.
The census wala is ready.
Yeah, this.
But
See, the census is a certain kind of taxonomy also.
Exactly.
I mean, census
How does it
is,
It can be part of.
categorizes people? How does it
the-
create
the
categories?
census has created an artificial Western taxonomy.
And that is what all society looked at.
Yeah, yeah.
Construction
That
of
is really-
identity.
So within this taxonomy thing, that's also one.
But the only thing,
In my own discipline, we have recently had this development, very recent. In linguistics, there is a very well-known principle, and on a survey we find that that's the only universal principle which cannot be contradicted. The principle was given a certain name in the 60s with Chomsky's generative grammar. It was called the elsewhere condition. And the elsewhere condition actually is originally taken from Panini. And the Sanskritists who were introduced to Panini, I'm sort of familiar with that
What
history.
condition is it called?
It's called the elsewhere condition.
Elsewhere condition.
Elsewhere condition. Very simply, it is like that if there are two contexts, if there are two rules, and if the rules refer to similar contexts, but a rule which is more general, a rule which is more specific applies first, and the rule which is more general. Exactly. So that is called, in modern linguistics, it has been called the elsewhere condition. And both the linguists I know familiar, because I know when they came to India in the late 60s and were trained in traditional Sanskrit grammar, MIT, they go back and then they work out the system. And it is absolutely incontrovertible. The only principle of universal grammar which is incontrovertible. In no language there is anything to contradict this. Now, some linguists who have been equally familiar with Panini have felt an unease at this. So very recently, the principle has come to be termed as Panini's theorem. Panini's theorem. And the first time when the theorem, when this was renamed, they say to attribute the idea to the original master, let's call him Panini's theorem. Now, I think we can sort of dig deep and search for such concepts and terms which actually have an origin. I am very certain that even in Saussure there are, I'm sure, and in general linguistics in the 30s to 50s, there has been a lot of borrowings because these trainings were on Sanskrit grammar. So I think I can think of this in my own discipline you go to ideas which are treated as general ideas, but those general ideas are from Indian tradition.
That's his field, and it's a good contribution. Very concrete. Very good idea. You see that in the U-turn there is 5 stages. One of them is this one. Stage 1 is the authentic study of the source, immersion, acknowledgement. So whoever did that would be studying it as Panini, and you will know it's from there or whatever. Stage 2 is decontextualization, and stage 3 is recontextualization as Western. Okay, so first stage is original context. Second is you remove the original context and you call it neutral, so it's considered general knowledge. Sabko pata hai. Like, Jung said that some of these are synchronicity and archetype, everybody has it. He decontextualized some of them. And then that person or later generation person takes this and recontextualizes it and calls it, they Plato say aaya tha, ye Kant ne kaha tha, ye Hegel ne kaha tha. So what you're referring to is the second stage.
I think it's precisely some of these concepts and categories that we will need to re-look at. What is logic? I myself have certain views on what is Indian logic. I always write it quote unquote. And ethics. So, the minute we say that, well, let us look at the Indian content, in these broad categories, Indian logic, Indian ethics, and Indian this, that, and the other, in my view, we're falling again into this very same trap. We're not looking fundamentally enough. We're taking those categories. Even this morning we were saying that our knowledge systems are not so subdivided. And but if we are just going to do that fiddle, change the content and say, Hamare yahan, this is logic. Aapke yahan, that is logic.
So can you do a paper where you take a certain number of such categories which are commonly misused by us?
I've been doing that all my life,
Okay.
yes. So, not all my life, but for some time. And the particular bee in my bonnet has been the place of reason.
If I just first title it like dialectics of knowledge and power, and dialectics the way I understand it, not in terms of the binary and overcoming of it, the way Hegel has talked about it, but something where we have certain contradictions and also certain common features. And try to, with the help of the common features, we try to sublate, elevate the notion. Yeah? So this could be the focus of it. And then of course I will be taking up the Western formulation of it, because they have really done the job inside. But then it has to be re-looked at it and critiqued from inside. And then supplanted with the Mandala tradition of in India, and the way we classified, like take the category of individuality for instance. In Indian ethos, it really did not evolve, because we are never individuals. We have some kind of collectivity or the other all the time. Some kind of collectivity, harmonizing aspect is there, but that has to be articulated. If we don't articulate, somebody else will come and articulate it and give it back to us. And that will create a kind of different narrative. So representation, discourse, and then it's a complete projection has to be there. It's
But is there a different kind of individuality, because the whole physiology of the body in the Ayurveda is so individual, whereas in Western medicine it was universalized medicine. Here it is very particularized.
No, they have universalized it at the level of anatomy and physiology and physicalism and all
Yeah,
kinds of
but
things.
the idea
But
of
at the
before
level
that
of property, at the level of property, freedom and life, they made it individual.
Okay, so in certain domains there is individuality, but we have Swabhav, we have the notion of Swadharma, we have the notion of a very, very particularized, individualized manifestation of the one becoming the multiple in such an individualized way that no two trees are the same and no two human beings are the same, and no two moments in time. Even time has got particularity. Would you agree?
Yeah, actually,
That we do not even have
what actually happened, just restricting to that, You know, the Western individuality, what is called the molecular individuality, while Indian individuality, molar individuality. The replication is not within the Indian system. No two individuals can ever be there.
Yes, right.
And while in the West, because it is molecularity,
Right.
in terms of their texture, structure and physiology.
In fact, I argue that Indians are more individual than the Western.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
molarity is the make it. Two moles cannot be identical.
Yeah.
But while molecules can be.
Even a moment in time,
Yeah, exactly.
There's no other moment
No
in time.
other moment, yes.
At the moment, I'm just working or beginning to work for my own purposes, so I'm simply don't want to make a commitment right now. But it is on, in fact, the place of reason in the Indian tradition, because, you know, this again, I feel that I don't subscribe to this idea of, you know, we're all basically rational and we're all basically this, that, and the other. I think that's the use of a word. And that word is being misused greatly. And also I do not believe that, I mean, I have certain ideas of my own which have to be substantiated. But what I'm wanting to do, and I possibly could do that, that is to look at some extant literature. See, we are also talking a little bit in generalities, but we are in a university system in which we are teaching texts. When we're teaching in the English language, so we're teaching Indian philosophy through the texts that are written in the English language. And I think at least a part of this project could be very usefully employed in actually examining some texts, some influential texts. Now, some of these authors, you know, may feel very bad about it. But that's down to the committee, yes, because some of them are
Yeah,
alive.
that should not be our concern. If it's bad,
Yes, if it's not our concern, that's
No, I
fine.
think you should,
If you know what I'm talking about.
Alive people, it's more fair because they can respond
Yes, yes.
and that takes more courage.
Well, I'm only talking about people with whom I've
Because
had
you
some
have-
discussion already.
You have tremendous value.
But,
Tremendous value.
I mean, if you look at some basic texts that are being taught and then examine them from the point of view of, I'm not, you know, I could be a part of that.
I think that something what you try to do through that workshop also, this translation problem and all that.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And word got back to one of the authors who was mentioned in that workshop, and we got an email back to say that, oh, I hear that my work's being criticized. I thought that was meant only for posterity.
No.
Not posterity, sorry, posthumously.
But that's a very wrong thing.
I mean,
I was reported in that way. I was also mentioned a couple of times.
That's how I got into the hot seat with Pollock, because I mentioned many times some of his translations, some of his ideas, and you know, if they can't handle it, they can't handle it.
But you see, in fact, if we indulge in this sort of project or activity, we are definitely going to hurt some of our friends, some of our colleagues. You know, within cause.
But you're not-
We shouldn't bother with that.
There's no
No,
personal
I'm
thing.
saying
Yeah.
It's a very objective.
concrete.
It's a very
But
concrete
sometimes
thing.
people take it that way, but anyway, that should not deter us from
See, this is one of the
Marking
differences.
on that.
This is one of the differences between natural sciences world. That you don't hesitate because what you are critiquing is a theory, and the individual is not involved.
That's working a paradigm.
होता रहता है।
Evolution and travel of ideas, and we got that certain ideas related to certain person belongs to some other place or to some reason, like Indian, European. So I think the historicity of those ideas should also be traced. Example, as he mentioned, Dr. Shankar, that the Linesha was basically the result of 1253, 1453 defeat of Europeans by Ottomans, and then they were exposed to what was the knowledge system in, as you call it, Islamic world. Though I have reservations about it, because it
was not exactly Islamic, because what was the system developed over there was as a result of many institutions over there, particularly Baitul Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, where the philosophers of the Arab or in the Persian world and also Indians, and those Indians were interestingly called as Nabati. Nabati means vegetarians, because after the attack of Holaku, they were forced to migrate to Syria and contemporary Lebanon, and they were called Nabati. So this was basically the synthesis and a kind of conglomeration of the different ideas, and they also revived what was left by Europeans after the Pope asked that the academy should be closed. So they revived the whole Western and Greek knowledge system. Similarly, there is also one hypothesis about Alexander, that he came towards east to see how far the knowledge system of Aristotle and his teachers has gone to east, Iran and India. And also this, I call it Perso-Arabic knowledge system, which was reclaimed by the Europeans. Many examples can be sought. For example, Al-Masudi's philosophy, and Ibn Khaldun you mentioned, Ibn Masudi's theory of environmental determinism and cycle of Jerusalem, and many other things were. So these things should be traced, and its historicity, I think, should be one interesting
History of ideas.
History of ideas.
Yeah.
And beside that, what I see is the Indian tradition, how it continued during the medieval period, and how it was decimated by the Europeans and colonialists. And basically how Shankaran criticized the nationalist notion is also has this historical background, because what colonial thinkers and historians has done, they divided the whole history, political history, knowledge history, and this can be called as the culture fracture. The whole knowledge system was divided in the name of religion, communities, Hindu, Muslim, and like that. So what happened? The nationalist historians started reclaiming it. That it was like they had a notion that Muslims had destroyed something, or they were violent to the local or Hindu culture. So the whole history was done into or shown in that way. So I think, but in the medieval period it was not like that. All the madrasas, they had, and all the ulama, they knew Sanskrit. They had a very good knowledge of the whole Indian music system and religious text. For example, Badayuni, who is considered as a very reactionary historian, he was the person who was assigned to translate Mahabharata. So he knew it, the Sanskrit, and there was no distinction of what was Hindu, was this and that. So that continuation of debate and discourse during this whole 1000 years, and how and why this whole system was named after religions or divided on the religious lines should be looked into. This is basically this has harmed a lot to our modern educational system, because we have started leaving many things, we are adopting many things in the name of religious identities and all.
So basically, revisiting the history of ideas with a corrective mindset.
Yes.
You want to correct.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
correcting the history of ideas
Yes.
of a certain period
Yeah.
where, this is very interesting. Okay,
So maybe we can calculate as Indian
And
tradition.
there are many myths and
I think this would be
misconceptions have
unique
developed.
because people are not talking about this. I think this would be one of the most important
Yeah.
inputs in this project. And
How should we?
someone who can do it, that's fine.
Yeah, for
How should we
example,
title it?
frequently this thing is coming, that Darasikov's,
No,
translation.
he translated the Upanishads,
But,
we all know that.
Dara Shikoh and his whole group, Muhibullah Allahabadi, many Pandits, Sadhus, and group, many people, they had developed a whole discourse, they produced lots of literature. Those literatures were banned, many were burned. So, and now it is being reclaimed. Some of them are edited, many of them are in manuscript form. So that must be, these are the basically
So how should we
treasure
tackle,
of,
tentatively, how should we tackle this?
I think you're challenging some of the premises in the history of ideas.
yeah.
Maybe we know what he wishes to portray.
And will it come?
So let's come back to fixing a title. Right now we
Okay,
work
because,
with
yeah.
drafts and
Okay.
But I think that, we'll expect, some abstracts from.
yes,
Yeah.
actually we will be calling in for abstracts, and there will be an in-house peer review of the article as well as the abstracts, so that we are all in line and we could get back in touch with each other and develop it into keep within themes and develop in strengthen themes. So we could discuss in the last 20 minutes the time frame for this as well.
What next? इन सारी बातों को मैं दो तीन ढंग से समझता हूँ। पहली बात, ये जो डर लगा हुआ है कि ये हिंदुत्व हो जाएगा।
But we should not get into that now anymore. Let's completely come. I know your problem with that, but let's come to the concrete thing. What exactly would you like to?
क्योंकि असली प्रॉब्लम यही है। असली प्रॉब्लम ये है कि 1947 से जितने सेकुलर इंटेलेक्चुअल्स थे वो उनको हिंदू टेक्स्ट माने और मुस्लिम टेक्स्ट माने, इसके कारण उन्होंने इसको एजुकेशन सिस्टम में अभी तक आने नहीं दिया। अब बात यह है कि बच्चों को हमें पढ़ाना है। आज किसी भी कोर्स में इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया पता नहीं है बच्चों को, चाहे पॉलिटिकल साइंस हो, हिस्ट्री हो, ज्योग्राफी हो, कोई भी हो, उसमें उनको पता नहीं है कि इंटेलेक्चुअल लिटरेचर हमारे पास क्या है। यदि वही नहीं पता रहेगा, न टीचर को पता न स्टूडेंट को पता, तो उसकी जानकारी सबसे पहले, और इसको सबसे पहले मैक्स मुलर ने व्हाट कैन इंडिया टीचर्स, उसमें ये अंडरलाइन किया है कि आप यदि रिचुअल्स की हिस्ट्री दुनिया की पहली बार लिखने जा रहे हैं तो बिना वेद पढ़े रिचुअल्स की हिस्ट्री भी दुनिया की नहीं लिखी जा सकती। यदि आप लैंग्वेज में कोई काम करना चाहते हैं, यदि आपको संस्कृत नहीं आती है तो दुनिया के लैंग्वेज के बारे में आप काम नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि सबसे पुरानी भाषा है। तो हमें सबसे पहले, मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया लिखी जानी चाहिए, और हर डिसिप्लिन के लिए अलग अलग। हिस्ट्री के बच्चे क्या करें कि उनके लिए संस्कृत में क्या मटेरियल है, 10वीं शताब्दी 12वीं शताब्दी हिंदू और मुसलमान बांट करके और ठप्पा लगाते रहे कि ये सेकुलर है, ये नॉन सेकुलर है, तो इस तरह से पढ़ाई नहीं हो पाएगी। तो हम ये चाहते हैं कि इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया, जो अखलाक जी कह रहे हैं, शुरू से लेकर के और 18वीं 19वीं शताब्दी तक अंग्रेजों के आने के पहले हम क्या करते रहे, इसका रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए और अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन के लिए बनाया जाए।
तो दो बातें, दो पॉसिबिलिटीज है। एक तो इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया के बारे में आप लिख सकते हैं
जी,
लिख सकते हैं।
हाँ।
एक तो वो है इंटरेस्टिंग। दूसरा, कि what are the problems created by misnaming, misbranding, हाँ, कि क्या secular, non-secular है, ये हिंदू है, मुस्लिम है, क्या है, वो भी हो सकता है बहुत बढ़िया।
क्योंकि आज 19th सेंचुरी तक जो भी संस्कृत में लिटरेचर लिखा गया, हिंदू शब्द के हिंदू धर्म है और यही हिंदू सिद्धांत है, कहा नहीं गया। ये कौन प्रोफेसर होते हैं जो कहते हैं ये हिंदू लिटरेचर है? गौतम धर्म सूत्र को कहें ये हिंदू रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट है, उसको रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट बना दिया।
नॉलेज, ये जो इंटेलेक्चुअल ट्रेडिशन में misusing the naming, misusing the naming, reclassifying, by doing that they are distorting the taxonomy.
Politics of naming.
They are creating a new.
मैं तो ये सब के बारे में दूसरे ढंग से सोचता हूँ। हम तो उनके लिखने का जो ढंग है, हम शिकागो मैनुअल क्यों फॉलो करें? हिंदी राइटिंग में हिंदी डिजर्टेशन लिखा जाता है शिकागो मैनुअल। हम अलग नहीं, हमें बनाना है, हमें अपने टर्म बनाने हैं, हम उस टर्म के ऊपर विचार करना चाहते हैं। ये क्योंकि इनको करना सबसे जरूरी है।
He's got so much passion. He want to do 5 books at the same time. ठीक बात है, आप बहुत अच्छी बात है।
Well, I think one of the editors of Encyclopedia of Hinduism.
Again, the word Hinduism.
Let's stick with that.
We have a problem with naming ourselves.
तो आप कौन सा पेपर आप क्या प्रपोज करते हैं? You want history of ideas, history of intellectual history, और या
मुझे अभी दो काम में ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट है करने का। एक तो इंटरप्रिटेशन पर, जो मीमांसा थियरी ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन है, लीगल टेक्स्ट को कैसे इंटरप्रेट किया जाए, जो मीमांसा ने डेवलप किया है। और अभी तक हम सारे रूल्स को एक साथ नहीं कर पाए। काटजू जी ने कुछ किया है, लेकिन सारे रूल्स हम ही अभी इकट्ठा नहीं कर पाए जिनको करना है। ये काम मेरे मन का है कि उनको लीगल सिस्टम में थियरी ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन, जो मीमांसा थियरी थी, उसको लाया जाए। और दूसरा मेरे मन का है कि ये जो इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन के लिए, मैडम कह रही हैं कि ये अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन तो अब बने हैं। अरे 14 डिसिप्लिन, 18 डिसिप्लिन, उपनिषद में इतने सारे। अब इतिहास हमारा डिसिप्लिन था, हिस्ट्री, पुराण, न्याय, लॉजिक।
Would you like to write about the disciplines itself?
हाँ, ये
disciplines in the classical Indian tradition.
तो इनकी हिस्ट्री के क्या, इनके टेक्स्ट है, कौन आथर है, क्या पीरियड है, और आज के लिए क्या यूजफुल हो सकता है। आपका जो पहले जो क्या था, वो लगता है
naming, misnaming, और उसपे क्या प्रॉब्लम, what is the results of that, what is the point?
डिस्कस करके एक कोई निश्चित कर लेंगे क्या काम करेगा, लेकिन ये सब काम करना है।
Perhaps something like again a category, the distinction between Swabhava and Swabhava and Indian, which I interpret that as the distinction between essentialism and anti-essentialism in Indian tradition. And now perhaps you could trace that development. Some of them. Perhaps the need to drop the idea of India. Drop the idea of India, and largely because of the political concerns, and largely to save the interesting discourse areas, which is it is already moved into the, as I said, right-wing political areas. Now, you have to go to Indian universities to see the distinction. You don't get any decent person to take up Indian philosophy now. Because you have to actually see that.
Indecent.
Sorry, I don't want to use the word decent. I simply want to say that you don't get some sophisticated.
English speaking, non-educated, educated people are not interested to learn learn Sanskrit and philosophy.
Largely
Convent
because-
educated English speaking elites are not interested
He is
to
right.
learn Sanskrit and philosophy and Indian intellectual tradition. This is the
No, that is
Problem.
right. That is what he said is right.
That may not be the
How
condition for next 10 years.
what is the reason for that? The reason is largely the appropriation of these systems by right-wing politics.
Name me one good right-wing thinker who has shown any ability to appropriate the Indian knowledge system. Name
yes,
me one.
anyone.
If you just say that, all of them, all those
So
who are
that's-
writing,
but that's
all
just
those who are
the-
No, that's
writing,
also,
all those who are
Shankar,
writing
that's
in,
just the point.
that's also, you are
That
thinking
is
that,
the
that way.
point.
It's possible
Let's
that
not
you
say
think
right
that
or
anybody is
left.
right,
No,
is right.
no, but that's his point.
see, now, most of, now let me put it this way, The contemporary,
He's saying odd because there's no right.
no, the contemporary, the best work comes from, best work comes from Japanese universities, the religious studies of Canadian and American departments.
Well, we agree with you, but the reason might be something else.
No, but what is a good study
Reason
from
might be
Indian,
colonialism and
about
communism.
Indian philosophy, a good study from any Indian university,
No,
right?
the reason, we agree with that.
That's why they
But the reason might be
rescind.
something else.
That's what I'm saying. So you have to see why is that? What is the political, what happened to that? Why we are not getting anybody to write?
We
See,
are
now
not-
various ways you can answer that. Various ways you can answer that. One is that all of us are Eurocentric. All of us are Eurocentric. One of which you can't argue against that. The other thing is that all these disciplines are tainted by a kind of a nationalistic discourse. So now, large number of people won't touch it. Because the moment you touch it, you will be appropriated.
So basically, the
And I'm just saying that the politics, why?
Identity politics, that identity politics, in the very beginning, we have decided that, that there are few things we will be careful, to shun from our, discourse. One is this identity politics. I think some of the post-colonial theoreticians who are not, of course, the right-wing, protagonists, but they are also falling into the same trap, what the right-wing politics does for political purpose. So we are basically shunning both, right? So I think what he is suggesting can be also a good theme for.
Yes, I have a tentative title for
It
that.
says it's a thing.
Yeah, I have a title for that if possible. Indian knowledge tradition and the idea of the India.
Okay, yeah.
Let's examine that.
पर उसमें बात यह है कि it's not only the fault of the people who call themselves right wing for appropriating. I face a lot of people who are let's forget the word Hindutva, keep it aside from what I'm saying. Let's say classical India, Dharma, who feel that because they hate that, who will take anybody who writes about it and brand and push him into Hindutva. I had to coin a phrase in the 90s saying on being a non-Hindutva Hindu. And I got attacked from both sides. The Hindutva saying, how can you be such a thing? And the other people saying that, no, that is just a cover-up for being Hindutva. Yeah. So if you write a paper on the politics of this thing, you should equally find, and I'll give you any number of examples.
I know also now that meeting, for example, you organized somewhere, and Dr. Jha of Delhi University, he was making fun of Shankara without any reason, and everybody clapping, and he never read anything, Shankara. But Jha, and everybody clapped. Shankara is the easy target. You can say anything you want. So that's a Marxist also. The Marxist historians also responsible for degrading and belittling the tradition. That is largely because Eurocentrism.
And they have empowered Hindutva by giving it a status which they didn't have.
I agree.
And you see, we should not capitulate to such phobias.
Yes.
I
That's
mean,
very
this is,
important.
you see,
Very
we
important.
shouldn't- Yes.
Very
because
important.
This is a talk, speculation.
Yeah,
That's
we should not.
exactly what you have to overcome.
We should.
This
Forget
one I
about the John, forget about
am not
Pramila
questioning
Thapar.
more overcoming it. Most of us are overcame. But I'm saying that you have to look at the politics involved.
Yes,
No doubt.
do that.
And why this discipline reached this dead end.
Yes, you're right
See,
about
but I think
that.
this idea of this India, what you are trying to problematize, and then try and
Indian knowledge
discuss,
tradition.
I think
I
some
think
can be
about
very
it. I
interesting.
think about it. I think
Yes.
about it.
Very important.
See, the problem with the topic,
Yeah.
if you say Indian knowledge system, the idea of India,
Stick your
you
neck
can
out.
write a whole volume with many views on that. On the idea of India, you can have a volume from the Ashish Nandi view to this guy's view, that guy's view. Yeah, that's the problem of one author writing one view on that.
I see what you mean.
I was thinking that maybe what he's suggesting is that how if we have something for India that limits the scope of knowledge tradition. Is that what?
Okay.
And then try to see how it really happened. This India got converted into
So
nationalism.
the topic would
Nationalism
be,
basically.
so there the topic could be Indian knowledge system beyond India. Is that the idea?
Something around.
It need not be South Asia because it's also Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Beyond the boundary.
Beyond the boundaries.
Breaking the boundaries.
It's a claim to universalism, like Greek thought has a claim to universalism, which has nothing to do with Greece as a country.
Geographical boundary.
Not refer to India.
एक बात इंडिया के बारे में बात हो रही तो बात करना चाहता हूँ कि कौन सी इंडिया, हम यदि पौराणिक इंडिया की बात करें तो हमें याद है जम्बू द्वीपे भारतवर्षे, और भारतवर्ष के 9 खंड, और उस 9 खंड का एक खंड है भरत खंड, और उस भरत खंड का आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस उसको 5 भागों में बांट दिया गया। कौन सी इंडिया की हम बात कर रहे हैं? अफगानिस्तान अंग्रेजों के आने के पहले इंडिया का पार्ट था। बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, म्यांमार, नेपाल, भूटान, ये इंडिया, ये कौन सी इंडिया है? इसीलिए अम्बेडकर जी को लिखना पड़ा इंडिया दैट इज भारत। भारत समझो यही इंडिया है, जो छोटा सा टुकड़ा है इंडिया। क्या हम इसको भूल जाएं? ये अफगानिस्तान हमारा कभी हिस्सा नहीं था, हमारे शत्रु देश थे, और भारतवर्ष के 9 खंड थे, वो इंडिया नहीं, वो भारतवर्ष नहीं है। और साउथ ईस्ट एशिया डिपार्टमेंट क्यों शुरू हुए? ये शुरू किया अंग्रेजों ने, अमेरिकन लोगों ने, क्योंकि इंडिया को वो अभी इस इंडिया को बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते। सारे डिपार्टमेंट, कभी संस्कृत डिपार्टमेंट हुआ करते थे, फिर इंडोलॉजी हुआ, फिर इंडिक हुआ, अब साउथ एशिया और कुछ और एशिया डिपार्टमेंट। अभी ब्रॉकिंगटन आए थे लंदन से, उन्होंने बताया कि अब हमारे जो संस्कृत डिपार्टमेंट हुआ करता था उसको एशियन स्टडीज डिपार्टमेंट कर दिया गया। कहीं भी अब यूरोप में संस्कृत डिपार्टमेंट नहीं रह गया। डॉक्टर शंकर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाला इंडिया का बात कर रहे हैं।
नहीं,
हम वही बात कर रहे हैं। 1947 में इंडिया नहीं शुरू हुई, हमारी इंडिया 1947 में नहीं शुरू हुई। यदि 1947 की इंडिया का इंटेलेक्चुअल ट्रेडिशन वेस्टर्न है। आफ्टर 1947 के इंडिया का इंटेलेक्चुअल ट्रेडिशन वेस्टर्न है, इंडियन नहीं है, न कोर्स में अपना पाठ्यक्रम में।
Contemporary India.
Contemporary India. That's what I thought.
Okay, it's easier.
I have 2-3 topics in mind and just like to share with you, and after your response I will try to analyze it. First is the question of literary historiography. I think particularly in the Indian tradition, Sanskrit particularly, I have not come across, there are many books on Sanskrit literary history or history of language or so. But one would see very serious problems there, like question of periodization. How do you say that up to which point you say this is ancient literature or medieval literature or modern literature? You are taking the same category the way we use in history departments and imposing it in the literary study also. This is not appropriate. This is not justified to some extent, because you are dealing with the history of ideas or emotion. So, for example, terms like Vedic and classical, this is the term invented by the Western scholars. What is classical about Sanskrit? And on what basis do we make a kind of divide? Vedic and classical. Similarly, many other categories like classical, the problem is complicated further when we add vernaculars. Vedic, classical and vernaculars, and they appear something like in conflict. They appear like exclusive categories, conflict categories. And that's why the whole question of hegemony of Sanskrit and all such emerge in this space. So, I would like to address to this question of principles and characters of literary historiography, particularly with reference, particular reference to Sanskrit, because it cannot be done in the whole.
उसमें बात यह है कि you have to gaze at the West because you are going to offer resistance to Western categories. So you have to gaze at the West. So I've actually addressed some of these issues by looking at the problem of the West. The basic metaphysics and philosophical assumptions of the West bring in conflict. So you have to go from this period to that period to that period. Pre-modern, modern, post-modern, and all kinds of things. There's a reason why they have to do that. They cannot coexist. Because in the Western system, the pre-modern, modern, and post-modern cannot coexist. In our system, they do coexist. So to understand, to properly explain why our systems are done violence when we put them in Western categories, you have to write enough about the Western history of its own categorization, and then you have to say that this is not universal history, it does not apply to us. That is the whole purpose of this book.